name's David Olds. I'm also the owner of ezREIclosings, but I've been an investor since 2002. So that's what, 22 years, which is just a freaking ridiculous amount of time to be doing anything. And I tell people I was just really too dumb to quit. But I'm based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. We own over 100 rental properties. At one point, we were one of the largest wholesaling companies in the country, and I've done over 1,600 wholesale deals. So a lot. And that's all cool, but it was not always like that. There was a time after my wife and we were living in Central Florida, and we both had full-time jobs, and we were flipping houses, and that was cool, right? We were making some money, we had some jobs, and then 2009 happened, and it was the end of the world, right? So when we moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee, and what happened was, it was so bad in Florida. It was just terrible. I bought a house in, I'm gonna speed this along because we've got a lot to cover, but in August, and it lost like 30% of its value in 4 months. Like it was just absolutely terrible. So anyways, we were looking for a new market, and we ended up in Chattanooga, but by that time we had both lost our jobs. We were in the construction industry. And I tell people when we got to Chattanooga, like if this was the level for broke, we were half of that. We didn't even have enough money to be considered broke. We were absolutely, in just terrible. But we moved there for real estate and had never wholesaled. So I'm like, well, we're gonna figure this out. But one of the reasons that I went there is I wanted to buy multifamily properties, right? Like all of us, it's all like Monopoly, right? I want to go from one house to four, to a fourplex to an apartment complex, which is cool. But what was happening in 2009 and 10? Banks were taking properties back, right? They were not lending money to anybody, right? It just wasn't happening. Even the 800 credit score people, like they just weren't in that business. So we had to come up with a way to buy some, where am I pointing this at? Is it not working? Tom, oh, there you are. Oh, too many. Okay. So we had to find a way to buy some properties, because what was happening is I was doing all this marketing, right? The same marketing that you guys are doing, maybe not as fancy in 2009. We were doing bandit signs and letters and direct mail. And what was happening is I'm going to Kevin's house, and I want to offer him $60,000 for his property. And he's like, man, I owe 80, right? So that's kind of a non-starter, right? You're stuck there. And I get it, you should have done sub 2. We did some of those, but it was the end of the world, right? We didn't know that properties were gonna 5x in value in the next 3 years. So I was kind of stuck, right? So there were just properties I couldn't contract, I couldn't get them cheap enough. So what happened is, I remembered, because I went to RIAs and I went to groups like this and events, I remember that somebody had talked about at an event, free and clear properties. I'm like, well, free and clear sounds cool, right? Like, that'd be cool. So I'm thinking, well, if Kevin's got a problem and he owes more than I can pay him, which was the situation back then, well, if I just target people who own their property free and clear, they may not love my offer, but they could take it. Does that make sense, right? So we'll talk about free and clear properties more here in a minute, but man, we got the light in my glasses, and I can't determine which one we're gonna go with here. So yeah, so financial crisis, foreclosure. We actually lost our last property in Florida. We moved to Tennessee, but we knew that we had to do deals. And I also knew, I was 40 at the time, so I'm like, I'm kind of old, I need to start doing something. So I wanted to buy properties and just buy and hold, right? So even though we were looking at properties that, again, I was giving him, $60,000 or $70,000, like that was what they were worth. But it was okay because I knew I was in this for the long game, right? I was in this for long term. So my message to people is always, buy real estate, just buy and wait. Like appreciation will happen, you'll get that pay down, the tax benefit. There are plenty of people here that can tell you about tax benefits. But I knew that over time, rents always go up. Always, right? People are like, oh, rents are going down. They blip, they may flatline. But over time, you can see, this is Bureau of Labor, that whatever that is, 60 years, 70 years, like rents are going to go up, right? But when I have a mortgage, whether I got it from the bank or I got it from the seller, that mortgage is flat, right? It's always gonna be $627 a month, but those rents are gonna continue to go up, and that's where you're gonna get that spread. I get it, this is Forrest Gump stupid. Just pay attention, stay with me. So, I remember at the RIA that I went to, they gave this incredible statistic, and normally I ask people, but we clicked ahead. 42% of the properties, according to First American Title, are owned free and clear in the United States. Most people guess like 5%. 42%, right? So this dawns on me, I'm like, Davey, let's just market to free and clear people, because even if they don't like my offer, at least they can accept it. Does that make sense? Right? Okay. Because now I can make whatever offer I want. So, lots of ways, of course, to buy your deals, and we're going to go quick here because I got a lot of slides. You know, you can do all of the normal things, but why do we love free and clear properties, right? So, I'm going to go to Kevin. I'm going to make him an offer, and you know, I'm going to start with my cash offer. We'll talk about that. But if I can get him to accept a terms offer, like I can close tomorrow, right? And I'm not talking about terms where like, oh, I'm going to give you $50,000 down. That's not what we're talking about here. If you're going to put $50,000 down, you might as well just go get a bank loan, right? But speed, flexibility, terms, and your exit strategies are completely unlimited. You can do anything that you want, right? So you can wholesale it if you want. You could do, you know, rental, Airbnb, student housing. You could do all of the things. But the point is, you're bringing in those assets into your portfolio. So finding them, incredibly simple. It's not hard, right? But you can go in and just designate no mortgage. Perfect. Go into your city. Like I would challenge all of you to do this when you go home. If you're doing marketing, go into your city and just search 1,000 to 1,800 square foot houses, free and clear, no mortgage, that have been owned for 5 years, right? That's an incredible list to market to. And what I want here is I want you guys to go home with something that you can bolt on to your wholesale business tomorrow, right? And we'll explain it here in a minute. Finding them, super easy, right? All of the same lists: absentee, owner occupied, you know, out of state, tired landlords, all of those things. Who should you not be targeting, right? Bankruptcy, divorce, tax delinquent. Why? Because those people are on a clock. They need to get paid, right? They're not going to accept some deal where I'm going to give them money over 10, 15, 20 years, right? So hopefully that makes sense. Contacting a seller, just do whatever you're doing now, right? It doesn't matter. But the idea with this direct marketing is that I'm pulling that list. So PPC, like, it's cool if a PPC lead comes in and you see that it's free and clear. You can definitely, you know, pitch this to them. But what I love about being able to go out there and pull a list is I can specifically target these people, right? I can put this into the top of my funnel, because your funnel, what comes out the bottom is what goes in the top, right? If you put pineapples in the top and expect grapefruits to come out, it's not going to work, right? So how do you bolt this onto your business? The best person in here, the best closer, closes 1 out of 10 deals on the phone, right? So, or in person, whatever it is. So I'm talking to Kevin, I'm making him his offer, and he's like, oh man, I can't do that. Okay, cool. Well, 1 out of 10 is awesome, right? You talk to people and they're like, I close 1 out of 10, 1 out of 9, 1 out of, cool. But what are you doing with the other 9? What are you doing with those other 9 leads, right? Surely they reached out, there was a reason, they had something, you know, that they need, a problem that they needed solved. So, in all creative offers, you're always going to start with the cash offer first, right? Why? Because that's the easiest deal. That's your wholesale deal, right? That's the easiest thing. But we want to take a second bite at the apple, if that makes any sense, right? So I'm going to make that cash offer. They accept it, great. Sign your contract, go wholesale that thing, make your $20,000. But if they've got an issue, right, and they can't take your cash offer for whatever reason, right? Sometimes they're hung up on the price, whatever it is. We've all done this. There's a million different reasons. But let's talk about getting that offer accepted. So obviously, rapport and motivation is important, right? You need to spend time on the phone talking to people, figuring out what their situation is, right? The way that I explain it to our team, whether we're selling ezREI closings or we're doing deals, and I know Lou will understand this, he's preaching it for 30, 40 years out there, right? That information you get in the beginning of the conversation are the things that you're going to use at the end, right? You're probing for information, right? So if Lou's like, yeah, I've job transferred me and I'm going to Florida next week, right? When you get down to the end and Lou doesn't want to take my offer, I'm like, Lou, I understand, but you're going to Florida next week. What are you going to do, right? It's just an example of we're going to take that information from the beginning, we're going to use it at the end, right? Why do we want to start with a cash offer? Because you need a baseline. You need some place to start. You need to anchor them at a particular number. If they take it, fantastic. But if they don't, right? Now we're going to back up and punt and we're going to take that little second bite. Probing questions. What are you going to do with the money? What about taxes from the sale, right? If I give you Kevin, if I give you, $300,000, like I'm not an accountant, you should talk to somebody, but you could probably pay $100,000 in taxes. Is that what you want, right? I love, and I'll show you what our portfolio looks like. Anyways, yeah, we built almost an $8 million portfolio doing what I'm going to show you guys here in just a minute. So who here has rental properties? Or who wants rental properties? Raise your hand. Awesome. All right. I'm going to show you how we bought a ton of them. So our portfolio is worth over $8 million, and we have $6,000 upfront cash. Who wants that portfolio? It's pretty good, right? But anyways, in that rapport building, I love to ask people if it's a tenant-occupied property, what's in that rapport building, like, hey man, what's the best part about being a landlord? Also because you should be interested in these sellers, right? You should, it shouldn't all just be about the offer, right? Like, I love sitting around talking to guys like Lou or Mike that have been around a million years, and I want to find out how they did it, right? So what's the best part about landlord? Oh yeah, collecting that check, right? That's awesome. What's the worst part? Well, what's the answer always? Tenants, toilets, or not taxes, but yeah, dealing with tenants because they suck, right? But I'm pulling out that, I'm gonna extract that information because I'm gonna use it at the end. So when we're having this conversation, here's the way that I do it. And it kind of evolved because I get very nervous, like I'm nervous up here. So I remember standing with these sellers the first time, and I made the cash offer and they couldn't take it. And I'm like, I was so upset, but standing there and I'm like, well, so you can't do 60, Kevin? No, definitely can't. Okay. Let me ask you a question. Do you need all the money at once? This is our second bite at the apple. This is it. And it's got to be done like that. Y'all are fucking smart. I get it. We all do real estate every day. But we tend to talk very fast about real estate, right? Because it's the thing that's in our brain, right? Like, it's the thing we do every day. The person you're talking to, Lou, what do people sell? 2 houses in a life, 3 houses, 4 houses in a lifetime? Like, just because we're doing it all the time, it's not the thing they do, right? There's Naaman. What's up, brother? The way I explain to people, it's like football, right? You got the passing game, fun and gun, and then you got the running game. Slow things down, right? So, man, do you need all the money at once? Or if they've got a mortgage, would you be open to this, or an ovation, whatever it is, right? This is that point where you're on your choose your own adventure. But do you need all the money at once? And sometimes they'll say yes, sometimes they'll say no, right? But we're increasing our odds. Instead of 1 in 10, maybe now we're going to close, out of 30, we're going to pick up an extra deal, right? So this is how you start to back your way into owner financing. So, let's just say he was asking for $99,000, but do you need all the money at once? Well, again, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Hey man, I know this might sound crazy, but I might have a way to do this. I know you're asking for $99,000, but what if I could actually pay you more? Like, I remember this, leaning on a counter in a woman's house, having this conversation. And she's like, but you just told me you can only pay me 60. I'm like, if you're open to it and you don't need all the money at once, I might actually be able to get you more. Who thinks that's going to get their seller's attention, right? And again, guys, one of the things for me that helped us grow our business and helped us build these massive portfolios is everything that we do in our company, simple is scalable, right? So you want something that you can bolt on to your business and bring in somebody off the street, right? Now they've been making pitch and wholesale offers for a little bit. You can teach this, right? Man, do you need all the money at once, right? You can teach that to anybody, right? It's not, we're not doing some crazy complicated, sub 2 with a wrap and a note and a partial split of whatever, right? Like, you can't teach people to do that. You guys can do it, I can do it, but we're not going to teach the average team member who's going to stay with us for 7 months how to do that type of stuff. But this you can do. You can bolt this on very, very easily. So do you need all the money at once? What if I could pay you more? What's next? You've got to think about what's important to the seller, right? Because what's important to us is not what's important to them. And I know that's really hard, right? Because we're all entrepreneurs and got a little touch of the narcissism. But, what was important to that seller? What did they tell you at the beginning of the conversation? Well, I'm leaving, I'm divorced, whatever it is, right? Whatever their particular situation is. And that's what you're going to use to help, pitch this. So how's your approach different? Bad tenants, of course, we're going to lean heavy into, man, Kevin, I know those tenants are, a pain in the ass. How long have they been in there? Geez, we really specialize in taking over properties like this and cleaning it up. Good tenant. I've had people that I bought properties from who made me promise, pinky swear, that I would leave the old 80-year-old woman in there forever, and I just had one move out after 7 years. And, sometimes you do that, right? You make that part of your negotiation. This woman stayed in a one-bedroom in one of my triplexes for like $325. And the rent on that unit now is $800. She's finally moved out. But sometimes you're gonna make those kind of concessions for people. Pretty houses, ugly houses, they're all a little different. But what are their pain points? So does that make sense? Do you need all the money at once? How can we make this work for you? Because the goal, right? The goal is to get properties. I get it, you may not want to be a landlord. We'll talk about, there's a million exit strategies. But nobody here is going to get wealthy wholesaling houses. Hate to tell you, it's not going to happen. You're going to make some money, you're going to piss it all away, because I've done it a lot of times. It's going to be great, you're going to get a Rolex, you're going to rent your Lambo, you're going to do all those cool things, but you're not going to get any real wealth, right? So for me, my situation was, and we'll talk about this in a minute, I was 40, I was pissed. Right? I'm like, God, I want to retire when I'm 50. Also 53, and here we are. But I needed to make some kind of plan, right? There had to be something, right? Some end in mind. And for me, right, I'm like, well, I want some rental properties, and I want that monthly income, that $60,000, $70,000, $80,000 a month coming in, where I can sit on the beach, and I don't care if 50% of it goes to taxes and property management. I'm still going to make $40,000 a month, which pretty much all of us can live on $40,000 a month, after taxes. So how do you do these, right? It's so stupid simple. It's the easiest thing ever. So when should you run your numbers? I talk to some people, especially newer people, and before they make every call, they want to have all the information. I get it. I've done it. Don't do that. Just talk to people. See if it's something that they're even open to, and then run your numbers, because I want you to get on the phone, right? You guys are all experienced. A lot of times I'm talking to some newer people, but get on the phone, right? Go out there and I need to keep moving quick. Get your numbers right. This is very simple. You don't need a 9-page Excel formula, right? Yes, there are more complicated ways to do this. I'm not that smart. I like to keep things very simple. I want to know what the rent is. I want to know what the monthly taxes are. Monthly insurance, if you don't know, $50, right? Guess. And any other monthly expenses, right? Depending upon the property, are there other things there that you need to account for? But that's it, right? So 875 minus 77 minus 50 minus $100, what does that tell you? It's going to tell you what your gross monthly profit is. This is third grade math, guys. Like literally you can do this on the fly in your head as you're standing there after you've done a couple of them. But that's going to give you your monthly cash flow, net cash flow, before debt service. Why is that important? How many people here have a mortgage calculator on your phone? Yeah, well, you should. Like, they're free. Go get one. Because literally, you can stand in somebody's kitchen and do this math and work it out, right? Here's a package of properties that we bought. I do have an Excel sheet, because this is actually the fanciest Excel that I get, right? I can get the columns to add up and subtract. So, I mean, you can see this is exactly how I determined this property, right? I had the purchase price. I did put what it was appraised at, but I have rental income. Let's see, monthly taxes, insurance, income, and then what my monthly payment is. But the way I figure that monthly payment, right, is because I'm making an offer to a seller who owns it free and clear, you can make whatever offer you want. Any offer, doesn't matter, right? They don't know. So I just take that mortgage calculator and I just start playing with the numbers. Oh, you want $40,000? Okay, let's do $40,000 at 4% over 5 years. The rent is, what was the rent? Monthly pay, yeah, $780, thank you. And I got the glasses. So $780, right? So I just play with the numbers, and what do you want for cash flow? 200, 300, 400, right? For me, I didn't care. I had a thriving wholesale business. I just wanted to accumulate as many rentals as quick as I could. So I'm like, $150 a month back then, I'm great. So I'm just playing with the calculator. We're just playing with the numbers and stretching out time, lowering interest rate. I'm just fooling with it a little bit. And once you do this a couple times, you'll be able to figure this out. How do I get to that monthly cash flow? Now I know what I can offer them. Does that make sense? I know I'm rushing because I only got 10 minutes and I want to give you guys as much as I can. But it's very simple. If you're not sure, come ask me. So how do you, there's risk tolerance. I was 40, I knew I needed to get this done, I didn't have forever. If you're 22 out there, you can stretch crap out on a 30-year mortgage if you want. And if you're not doing wholesaling, maybe you need that rental income to live. I don't suggest that, but you may want $300 or $400 a month per door. It's up to you. You choose your own adventure. Yeah, how much reserves do you have? Because you're buying these properties, you're on the hook, you gotta make the payment, you're gonna have to do the repairs. How quickly do you wanna grow? Who's gonna manage these? In the beginning, I self-managed, so I didn't have to worry about 10% or $78 a month to handle a property manager, right? So, I could be a little bit more aggressive, and then what are you gonna do with the property, right? Everybody with me so far? Does this make sense? Is it good? Okay. I was telling Sheik, before I go up there, I'm always like worried, like, is this gonna make sense to people? So you're gonna make your offer. Let's talk about making the offer. This is very simple. The reason this is called 3 offers to freedom is because we make 3 offers. Very simple. There's some magic in 3, right? If I give people 2, for some reason they can say yes or no, but when it's 3, the brain says I have to pick something. So I'm gonna make them the cash offer, my 60 grand. I'm gonna make them a 100% all financed offer, and then I'm gonna pick something in between. Pick something in between is whatever you want it to be. There's no formula. Okay, so cash offer, again, I've already made the cash offer, so that's gonna be very simple. The 100% owner finance is whatever they asked for, which usually is reasonable, right? Maybe a little high, but that's okay. And then a blended offer is I'm gonna give them a little bit of money down. $2,000 to $5,000 is like the most I ever did. And then, we'd, figure it out. So, very simple letter of intent. Keep it simple. Don't try to show the seller how smart you are. Make it 3rd grade language. There's a reason politicians talk in 3rd grade language, because that's unfortunately where our country's at. So, letter of intent, we're gonna make 3 offers. This is what one looks like. This is a real deal that I did. Option number 1, $65,000, but then I'm like, what does it say here? Total due to the seller over the term of the loan, 84, because how can I pay you more? I'm gonna show you how I can actually pay you more. 3rd offer was my cash offer, which was 30 grand. In the middle was 50,000 with $2,000 down on a 10-year term, right? If you wanna take a picture of that, I've only got 7 minutes left. I still got a bunch I wanna show you. But that's the basic structure, right? This is not complicated. I actually didn't even come up with this myself. Old school Chris Kirshner, who used to teach 20 years ago, I got this out of his sub 2 course, so I want to give credit where credit is due. We just adapted it for owner financing. So that's it. That's how you make the offer. What do you think most people pick? Naaman? You know what, man? That's what everybody picks. 1, 2, 3, it doesn't matter. That's what everybody picks. Man, you know what? That's what everybody picks. Why? Because I want to anchor them to that decision, right? I don't want them to come out later going, oh, I have seller's remorse. Again, this is not complicated. I promise you, this is silly, simple stuff. But you can get really rich and wealthy by adding this into your wholesale business, because you've got all these leads that you're not doing anything with. So yeah, that's what everybody picks. Which one do I hope they pick? Like it was you. 3? Yeah, I really do. Actually, 3 is really the answer. I was going to say it doesn't matter, because I crafted all 3 offers. Doesn't matter. But when you give somebody 3, they look at it and they feel like they have to pick something. Like very rarely I would give this to somebody and they would just like not pick anything, right? Because I'm giving them all the options. I'm giving them quick, I'm giving them the most, and I'm giving them something in between. So very powerful, simple stuff. Person or email, I always did these in person, but you can definitely do it virtual. And the way that I would do it is, I was leaning on the counter at that house on Henderson, and I'm like, oh, do you need all the money at once? Would you be open to this? I literally pulled out my calculator, like, how about if I could pay you, $120,000? Well, how can you do that? Well, if you don't need all the money at once. She's like, oh, that's great. I'm like, awesome. Why don't you follow me to my office, right? So that was where I was in person, but I've also gone out to the car and handwritten this and given it to them. So definitely can do that. Which option works best for you? Man, that's funny. That's what everybody picks. Because I just want them to feel comfortable with it. I don't want them to leave and. So there's always going to be questions, right? You want to kill the elephant in the room. I'm from Georgia, and they don't like Alabama, so there we are. So you should say, you know, because you can sense, right? We've all been talking to people. You can sense when there's a little bit of uneasiness where people will just say yes to get you off the phone. You know, hey, Kevin, here's the question you should be asking me. And they're always like, oh my God, thank God, right? Because you're the expert and they're unsure and they don't know. And, you know, who's going to pay the taxes? I'm going to pay it. You know, how am I going to pay you? You know, what if I don't pay you? Right? Like, you should answer those questions for people. If you've got somebody that's super worked up about it, what I always used to do is, hey man, we're going to sign an agreement, and at closing, I'm going to sign a quick claim deed back to you. And the title company's going to escrow it, and if ever I become 60 days past due, title company can file it. That will make people very comfortable. And then my follow-up question is, do you know why I would do that? Because I don't plan on not paying. It doesn't bother me. That makes people very, very, also, do not pay people. That's a shitty thing to do. You know, who pays for closing? I'll pay for that. But then, you know, if there's still objections that you have to overcome, that's where we're going back to our rapport at the beginning, and, you know, we're going to answer those things, right? Hey, I thought you had to leave. I know, you need to move to Phoenix because your cat has psoriasis and whatever it is, right? We're going to solve those problems. So the contract, very simple. I was talking to someone the other day. I've done over 1,650 deals. I use a one-page contract. It is very simple. It's for wholesale. I'm buying, you're selling. There's some very simple terms in here. All we do is we add this at the bottom. It's a little fuzzy, but if you guys want, I can have Hannah send this PDF or the slides out. But literally, it's the terms. What's it say? Seller will pay $1,000 of the buyer's closing costs and prepaid fees at closing. Seller will finance $39,000 at 5% over a term of 180 months. Payments due to the seller on the 15th of the month. Why? Thank you. People are shocked when I tell them the 15th. I'm like, no, always be on the 15th, right? You want to give yourself a little bit of leeway. Because also I was broke, remember? Half a broke, right? I didn't have $40,000 in the bank to float these things, right? So I was trying to get every edge that I could. What does the rest say? Got these balloons up here. Closing to be set as soon as possible, but no later than August 30th. Seller grants any extensions needed, whatever. So not complicated, right? Do not try to show people how smart you are. Don't be LegalZoom out there. Simple language, right? Present it in a way that the title company can understand it, right? Title company, they can't read your mind. Be very clear with what's going on. Third grade language. Let the title company prepare docs. Do not try to do your own quitclaim deeds. It's a bad idea. Make sure you're insured before closing. ezREIclosings will close it for you. But now you own an investment property. Cool. Congratulations. So here's a list. This is very simple. Like, this is it. These are the action steps to go when you go home, right? Pull a list, mark it to the list, talk to the sellers. Do they have motivation beyond cash? If they're leaving town or, they can't handle it. Like, I had one guy I bought 2 properties from. 2 of the first ones, his knees were bad. And he's like, man, I just can't go over there and work on the property anymore. Because most landlords are mom and pops, right? They're out there doing the stuff. They're scraping popcorn. They're laying tile, doing all the things. They're doing it themselves. Present your offer, close the deal, and then long-term cash flow. Want to see a couple deals that we actually did? This is one on Peak Street, which is in North Chattanooga. Let me see if I can go backwards. What did I buy it for? 37? Yeah, it's a little fuzzy up here. 37. I did nothing. This house had a tenant in it, a nurse. I did nothing. Like, I walked in it the day we bought it, and I just collected rent. And she was actually a little bit under rented. I was actually losing like $15 or $20 a month. It's crazy. But I had a property in a really great area of town. I did jack for it. Like, I did nothing. But I had this long-term tenant. Her name was Susie Abernathy. And I remember talking to her, and I'm like, Susie, because what's the first thing you buy a house, a tenant always wants to know? Are you going to raise the rent? Like, not right now. As long as I don't have to come in here and do a ton of repairs for you. And normally, you're not losing money. I have very few that I was ever upside down on. But as long as we can just kind of keep the status quo and keep going like we're going, no, I'm not gonna raise your rent. But anyway, so she was in there for like, my God, 5 or 6 years, and I never raised the rent because she just wasn't my biggest priority, right? She was paying, I wasn't having to do repairs. It was she was kind of beat the place to death. But she moved out, and if you go back on my Facebook far enough, I actually went over to the property and did a live before I was doing a lot of social media stuff, and everybody got to experience this property as I walked through it. It was in pretty tough shape. So I didn't want to fix it. Out of time. 2 more minutes? I'll go very fast. Anyways, put it on market for 130, sold it within a day and a half. But cash to me at closing was $107,000. Did nothing. Literally nothing. I think I might have had to go over there and restart the water heater one time. I sent my guy. But, I mean, those are the actual numbers. Unlike TV, we really have closing costs. But we've done, you know, well over 100 of these things, right? I try not to sell them, but every so often, at this time, I didn't have the bandwidth to do it. So this is what the portfolio looked like. If you're really squinty, you can see. These are all real numbers. This is actually what we do. And then questions, that's what I've got. So this is something I normally do in 2 days, and I had it shrunk down to an hour. And Mike gave me 30 minutes, so I wanted to give you guys as much value as I could. So any questions? No, we're out of time, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. All right, awesome. Thank you, guys. I appreciate it.